So, hi. I have ADHD, and I was only diagnosed quite recently. Something from the before times that was a problem for me was that other people who didn't understand what was going on, and to be fair, that included me, would often try to help and deal with the disorganization that I clearly struggled with. The thing that most people use to try and help with disorganization is scheduling. You know, you'll spend the first hour of the day doing this task, and then you'll take a break where you go dunk in an ice bath or something, and then you spend the next hour of the day doing this. And then you go eat 5 boiled eggs and take your brain supplements, and then you'll spend the third hour of the day doing this. And well, people will sell you timers and all sorts of stuff in order to make the process more efficient. And I hate schedules. Because what happens is you spend all this time, all this effort with everyone helping you, and there's a big collaborative process about what's best. You spend all this effort making a schedule, and then the clock ticks into the first scheduled time of the first day, right? And you do nothing. Because, it just doesn't work. That's not how brains work. That's not how you motivate people. That's not how you get fucking dopamine. That's how you get cortisol. Because all you're doing is stressing me out that I can't do the things you expect me to be able to do. And everyone thinks scheduling works so well. Just do a study plan. Just go through high school. Just do a study plan.
Oh, come
and it doesn't
on.
do fucking
You can't just keep complaining about this all day. You gotta find some real solutions. Hi everybody, welcome to my talk about how you can actually get things done by shaping your behavior. Now if we look at that thing has a problem. It can't do anything. It tried to solve it with a planner. Planners don't work. Planners aren't a good source of actually getting stuff done. So why can't you actually do anything? Well, I can relate. I really struggle with doing stuff myself. Like, I have all these high-minded plans, like I want to go to bed at a nice time, I want to eat healthy food, I want to take good care of myself. But night after night, I just find myself staying up way too late on the computer instead of sleeping. And it's not because I don't know what time it is. I keep looking at the time and I keep seeing, oh, it's 2 o'clock. I can stay up a bit more. It's 3 o'clock. Well, I can stay up a bit more, and then it's 4 o'clock, and then I'm just taking myself to bed and starting my bed routine at 4, and it's just, why did I do that to myself? I regret everything. And it all creates a debt that I have to repay later. I'm in sleep debt, and I have to pay it off by sleeping through next morning. So I don't even get to have next morning. I stole that from myself. I know that it would have been so much better to sleep sooner. And I said I was going to. So why didn't I? There's 2 kinds of decision makers in you. There's the planner, high-minded ideas about what you want to do in the future, planning ahead, here's what I'm going to do today, tomorrow, next week, here's my goals. I think these will be like really smart ideas. Yeah, I'm going to go to bed on time tomorrow. I'll make it happen. But when it actually gets to that time to make that decision of, am I going to go to bed right now, that decision's being made by a different part of my brain, the doer. They are in the moment. It's their choice whether I stay up or go to bed. And I have to trust them to make the wise decision. Pretty often, they just don't. What's up with that? Why don't we do what the planner says? Because plans don't actually convert into action. You say, I'll definitely do that tomorrow. You don't. Why is that? A couple of reasons. The planner doesn't empathize with the doer. In that moment, when I'm on my computer late at night, I'm having fun. I'm actually having a lot of fun right now being there. I'm like in my zone. I'm having a good time. I don't want to just put all that away, just cut it off and take myself to bed. That would just be really sad. And when I'm planning it out, I'm planning like, I'm going to go to bed. But I didn't think about the emotions I'd be experiencing in that moment. When one is not hungry, afraid, or in pain, for example, it is difficult to imagine what it would feel like to experience one of those states or to fully appreciate the motivational power such states could have over one's own behavior. plans also don't convert into action because the planner actually doesn't have a strong influence on the doer. It's two separate states of mind. Like, just because you said you'd do something, why did you think that would become an action? There's actually very little influence going on at all there. If you want to make something happen, you have to have a different strategy from just planning to do it. Doing the thing takes a different kind of motivation. So how can we go about changing this? How do we actually make the doer make the right decision in the moment, the one that we planned for? I want to talk about what it feels like to fail on these goals as well. To be there brushing my teeth at 4:15 in the morning and think, oh man, I am like so stupid. Why didn't I just go to bed earlier? I feel angry at myself. I feel like I wasn't strong enough. I feel like it's all my fault. It's my fault for not having enough willpower, for not being dedicated enough. I just need to apply myself. Right? No, that's garbage. I shouldn't be so hard on myself for doing that. Building more willpower will not save you. Your plans do not carry to decision time. The things that the doer does, like staying on the computer, I did that for a reason. There was a reason for that decision, and no amount of willpower would have simply changed my mind of which option I valued more in that moment. What we need to do is we need to make the right decision feel natural rather than trying to force it from a mindset that isn't the doer's. So let's talk about conditioning. Conditioning is what we call shaping behavior. It's used for training animals and children to behave in the way that their parents or owners want them. And there's two main kinds of conditioning. You have classical conditioning and you have operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is literally just Pavlov's dog. I'm sure you've heard the story before, but whenever he fed his dogs, he rang a bell, then the dogs associated the sound of the bell with eating the food. And when you ring the bell without food, the dogs still have that association and they expect to receive food, and so they start drooling in anticipation. This had a direct effect on the dog's behavior. It made them drool through association with an action that has nothing to do with it. That association was simply created. It's very interesting, but I don't think it's very relevant for ADHD. Operant conditioning is what we want here. It's all about reinforcing good behavior that you want to see more of and punishing bad behavior that you want to see less of. And that kind of reward or punishment feedback, it can be verbal or physical, or it can take any kind of forms. There's 4 subtypes of operant conditioning that you want to keep in mind. You've got positive when you add a stimulus. You've got negative when you remove a stimulus. You've got reinforcement when you encourage a behavior, and you've got punishment when you discourage a behavior. So you can combine those concepts into these 4 archetypes we see here. So what do those look like in practice? Well, an example of positive reinforcement is you see a behavior you like and you want to encourage more of it, so you reward it by adding something. So you could call someone a good girl, or you could give them a treat. Negative reinforcement is when you remove something to encourage a behavior. So usually you want to be removing something bad to make it seem more encouraging. A good example of this is if someone's constantly nagging you to do something like, can you do the dishes? 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 At some point you're going to want to do them so that they stop nagging you. So that's negative reinforcement. There's pleasure gained from removing the nagging stimulus, and it means you want to do the behavior more. For discouraging behavior with punishments, you can do positive punishment where you add something negative. This could be verbal, like scolding. It could be physical, like spanking. People put money into swear jars to try to discourage themselves from swearing. Or you can have negative punishment where you remove a positive stimulus as a punishment for a bad behavior. So this could be like taking a child's toys away because they act up, and then the child's really sad about that. They want their toys back, and they learn to not do that behavior anymore. So that's how operant conditioning ties into changing which behaviors people exhibit. A really important thing to keep in mind when using operant conditioning to change behavior is that the feedback you give, that punishment or reinforcement, it has to be immediate, because what you're looking to build is an instinctual association between the punishment or reward that you give and the behavior that caused it. If your punishment or reward is too late, then it's unclear for the person's mind which behavior to mentally associate it with. Since we're specifically looking to change the instinctual associations and change the value system for the doer, who's in the moment and not like putting all of their thought into it, it has to be something that is felt rather than learned. So here's how I've used this to shape my own behavior. I mean, if it works for training children or dogs, why wouldn't it work for me? So you can do self-conditioning to change your own behaviors as well. Something I've noticed is that intrinsic rewards from doing the thing itself are not sufficient for me. They don't shape my behavior. You might think that if going to bed feels so good, like just so nice and relaxing to get in there, put my head on the pillow, snuggle up, I'd want to do it all the time, wouldn't I? But turns out not really. That doesn't create a feedback loop of wanting to go to bed in a reasonable manner. I need to add my own extrinsic rewards in order to shape that behavior and make going to bed more desirable. You can also consider whether to give yourself rewards or punishments. I said that using a swear jar is a common practice for adults looking to change their behavior on that by providing a punishment. It's up to you whether you think rewards or punishments will work better for you, especially given the specific task. It might vary. I find that rewards work better for me because if I'm experiencing punishments, I tend to just wallow in them and not really do anything to change the behavior, like a cycle of feedback of misery and self-flagellation. It's not pretty. I don't want to do that to myself. I don't think that's a good motivator for me. But I'm still going to consider those as options because maybe it'll give me a good spark of inspiration in thinking what kinds of conditioning I could use. So here's how I specifically used this to condition myself to have a more reasonable and consistent bedtime. I asked myself the question, do I want to reinforce going to bed with a reward, or do I want to punish being in not bed to discourage that? So we've got 4 different types of operant conditioning here. So positive reinforcement, I can have a reward waiting at bed for me, so that I want to be there. This will naturally encourage going to bed because I want to do that for the reward. This will affect my doer decision-making. I could try negative reinforcement if I had someone nagging me to go to bed, so that I want to go to bed, so that I stop being nagged at. It's something I considered, but considering that nagging didn't really do much in my childhood and I kind of just tolerated it, probably not the best. Positive punishment, couldn't think of anything. Negative punishment, so that's taking away something that I liked to make me feel bad. I could take away the thing that's keeping me being in not bed. So the next best option I have after that is bed. So for the actual execution, I ended up going with positive reinforcement. It just makes the most sense here. So what can we do in terms of rewards? What I ended up settling on is story time. I figured I couldn't do anything physical involving like treats or activities because I don't want to be eating sugar when I've just brushed my teeth, and I don't want to be doing activities when I'm supposed to be lying in bed, so that didn't make sense. Whatever I'm doing has to be something more mental that's more of a psychological reward for going there. And I figured, okay, let's do story time. I'll do a bedtime story with my girlfriend. We'll read a few pages of the story, and then I'll feel nice and sleepy, and then we can go to sleep. This actually works for me. I look forward to the story, and I feel really bad if it starts getting too late to go to story. Like, I'm really worried that I won't get it. So that's a good motivator for me to want to get to bed that actually affects the doer part of my mindset rather than just the planner. When weighing up the options of like, do I want to stay on my computer at this time or do I want to go to bed at this time? The doer's like, well, if I go to bed right now, I can get story. So the doer ends up taking that action. It's not something that I need to carry through from the planner to the doer. So to sum up all this, I find myself making plans that I actually can't carry out. And I'm really bummed out about this because I want to carry out my plans and it just ends up not happening. Do I need more willpower? No, it's not a matter of willpower. You have to make the decision more attractive to the doer so that the doer can make the decision at the time that it's needed. I'm now doing this for my bedtime, and it's working out really well. I'm looking to introduce this to more parts of my life as well. So I'd like to give acknowledgments to some of the people and writings that influenced this and gave me the idea to even try this. Just so you're aware, some of the sources I did draw from to come up with this talk do have sexual content, so if you decide to follow these links back, make sure that's something you're comfortable with. If you're not, feel free to close the video. You've seen it all. Bye! The planner-doer concept came from these guys. I haven't actually read their book. I just saw an article online that had a good quote talking about it. Maybe it's good. There's also a paper from these guys in this journal about the hot-cold empathy gap and why, like, the planner mind can't see what the doer mind values when it's time to make that decision, because that's something pretty important that I hadn't really considered, so thanks to those guys. Believe it or not, I found this Goon Cultist guy to be a really useful influence in reading about psychology. It's very accessible and entertaining articles about all sorts of things that have lots of links to further reading that I've enjoyed. One of his articles, Neostimmies Arrive from the Future, talks about superstimuli and whether like there's unnatural things in a human environment that can influence their behaviors in a way that like evolution hasn't taught them to. And it's like a tantalizing mental model because it neatly explains our seemingly powerless reaction in response to certain kinds of stimulus. Why did I eat that entire box of Oreos? Super stimulus. And a big influence on learning about conditioning was Sleeping Girl, who wrote the Brainwashing book. Really good resource for conditioning, talks about both classical and operant. Most of the ideas in this talk are from there. She just likes it for erotic purposes. I like it for wholesome purposes, because I am a wholesome doll. So thanks for listening. Hope this helps you. Try practicing conditioning in your own life, and if you got any feedback on that, well, let me know if it worked or not. Up there. Thanks. Bye, lovelies.
Pow.
Look at me. I'm in the computer. Ooh. Let me out. Let me out. Is that funny?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, fuck. Why do I have the slide in here?